Good morning. Welcome to Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. We're going to get started right off the bat with our first two community songs. If Love is Why I'm Here, and then Sanctuary.
If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and receive. If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and receive. Give and receive. Give and receive. If love is why we're here, let us be an open channel. If love is why we're here, let us give and then receive. If love is why you're here, may you be an open channel. If love is why you're here, may you give and then receive. Give and receive. Give and receive. If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive. If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive. Let me give and then receive. 'Cause love is why I'm here. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Lord, prepare me to be sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary
We're doing musical duties today, so literally, Juanita can be musical.
Musical chairs.
There you go. Good morning. Welcome everybody here in the room. Welcome everybody on YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. My name is Reverend Rafe Ellis, and I am so honored and privileged to be the senior minister here at Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. It is my privilege to remind us of who we are and share with any of you who are joining us for the first time who we are and what we're about. We are a radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, supportive community that celebrates the very diversity of creation. We strive to live authentic spiritual lives through a practical application of the teachings of science of mind. We engage in sacred practices that uplift our spirit, deepen our awareness, and ignite our soul's self-expression. We demonstrate active compassion to ourselves, to one another, and the world. We experience meaningful contribution through giving generously of our time, talents, and treasures, and we intentionally promote our community and our teachings. And if you're joining us on the live stream, you can participate immediately in helping us promote these teachings in this community by sharing this live stream on whatever media platforms play on. One of the things we do every Sunday morning is our candle lighting ritual. And we light these candles to celebrate the unity of all people, all faiths, all beings, all life. There you are, love. All right. We light the first candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples. We light the second candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the third candle for Taoism, honoring the path of ultimate reality, the natural way. We light the fourth candle for the third candle for fourth. Four comes after three, Rafe. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the middle way and path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the teachings of Jesus as the path of love, forgiveness, and healing by the presence within. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest call. Light the eighth candle, religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. With the ninth candle, all forms of new thought teachings, honoring the physical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles of love and law. We light the 10th candle for absolute inclusivity, affirming that all are welcome and celebrated here. And we light this final candle, honoring the infinity of oneness as all creation, seen and unseen. And so now, I'm going to turn it back over to our musicians for our next community song, Love, Serve, and Remember.
serve and remember to love. 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 Serve and remember.
This is a whole new version again with the Rev. This is our time of announcements. I want to thank everybody for continuing to wear masks. We are aware that the state mandate has changed. We're also aware that the languaging of it is a little complex. And the board meets on Thursday, and we will have a discussion about it and make some decisions about how we want to move forward. I will share with you the bottom line is it will always be in the best interest of the community, not necessarily in the agreement of everyone in the community. So we'll see what happens. We are here. We are continuing with our bead system. We have Mardi Gras beads at the entrance, and if you want people to stay 6 feet away from you, you can wear a red strand of beads, and that communicates that. If you're not sure, you're figuring it out one person at a time, you can wear a yellow strand, and that communicates that. Just communicates to people, check in with me before you reach out and touch me. If you're good with hugs and handshakes, you can wear a green strand, and that communicates that to folks. If you want to create some space for yourself when you're sitting down, you can grab a couple of seat savers on either side, door, put on either side of you. That creates your space that you prefer. We do this so that you don't have to have the same conversation and over and over again. So far, it's working brilliantly. I do ask that if you have symptoms of anything, that you please stay home. I had a conversation with a community member earlier this week who actually has COVID and may have had it for a little while before she realized it because her symptoms were so benign that she really thought she was dealing with allergies until all of a sudden she couldn't taste or smell, and then she got tested. So regardless of what symptoms you have, let's agree to take care of our bodies and take care of our community and join us on live stream so that we don't share something we don't want to share. Okay. We are continuing our Wednesday night Going Deeper. It is a conversation about taking these teachings and really applying them in our daily lives. And we will discuss whatever you bring to the room. It is also available through Zoom. We have it set up to where folks that are on Zoom can see the folks in the room and vice versa. So that is on Wednesday nights from 6 to 7. Hope you'll choose to join us. Gary Lynn Floyd and Karen Drucker are hosting a Presence, Passion, and Purpose retreat at Ondas Village. Is April 29th through Sunday, May 1st. If you want to register, you can get more information on that at either of their websites. It's really simple. Karen Drucker's website is karendrucker.com. Gary Lynn Floyd's website is, surprisingly, garylynnfloyd.com. So those are easy to access. We have a class coming up. So far we have, I believe, 2 folks signed up, Juanita, is that correct? We have 2 folks signed up. We're offering it right now on Tuesday and Saturday. The Tuesday class will be from noon to 2:30, and the Saturday class will be 10 to 12:30. If we don't have enough folks sign up, we may have to combine those into one day. This Tuesday class starts on March 1st, and the Saturday class starts on March 5th. Change your thinking, change your life. I invite you to consider getting some tools on how to do that. Walking with the Rev. This came up while I was doing the newsletter. It was like, let me just do this. And so for the last 2 weeks, and it's working out really well, we meet over at North Star parking lot there at the beginning of Wolf Creek Trail. And we walk in one direction for a half an hour, and when the alarm goes off that it's 10:30, we turn around and walk back. It's really that simple. We go at the pace of the slowest member so that we really building community and honor each other. Because some of us walk a whole lot faster than others. So invite you to this. It's just a time together. Honor our body, move a little bit. That is Tuesday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Of course you can bring your dog. The trail rules are you can bring your dog as long as they're on a leash. I don't bring mine because there's not a leash that will make them behave. So my heathens are not well behaved, so they don't get to come. All right. This is our time of inward shift. And this morning, practicing our inclusion commitment, we have Julia Robles Scott as our practitioner this morning, remotely from Oregon. And so I invite you to relax. She's going to talk to us about our community value. Then we're going to do our bridge song, just like we always do, into our meditation. And then Julia will bring us out of our meditation with our opening prayer and lead us in reading our affirmation. Here we go.
Good morning, beloved spiritual community. My name is Julia Robles Scott, and I am honored to be one of your practitioners here. And today we are going to be talking about our core value of love. When I was thinking about this, I was reminded of that Tina Turner song, "What's Love Got to Do with It?" And I thought to myself, what's love got to do with it? Well, love's got everything to do with it. What is the it that we talk about? In the Science of Mind book on page 26, Ernest Holmes states, the study of the science of mind is the study of first cause, spirit, mind, or that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. That is what it is. I like to think that we came into existence as a result of a loving thought of God. The thing itself created every living thing and all of reality, the seen and unseen. And if you believe what the Bible says, God saw its creation and called it good. If God is all there is, then it is who we are. If love is who we are, then love has everything to do with it. Let's remind ourselves that each person we see is the face of love, that everything is either an expression of love or a call for love. When we look out into the world and see that which is calling for our love, let's freely give of the love that we are, and in so doing, help heal ourselves and each other. And now is our time to prepare to go into our meditation. And I just invite us to remember that God is in all, through all, as all. And may we see the reflection of God's pure love in each other's eyes.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me. In this very room, there's quite enough joy for one like me, and there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For spirit, sweet spirit,
And as I just breathe out and breathe in, I bring my awareness to the presence within. I feel into that presence at the center and core of my being, that presence that I call God, Creator, Spirit, the thing itself, that presence that I call love. Knowing that I am one with this infinite presence of love, that I am forever connected with it and with all of life itself. I realize and recognize that love is everywhere present, always. It is at the center and core of my being. It is the seen and the unseen. It is that power and presence and intelligence that permeates everything. And during this season of celebrating love, I feel so grateful for all the love in my life, for all the love I feel within my heart, for the love within this spiritual community, for the love that we share one with each other. Knowing this spiritual community is a sacred place, blessed by the love that God is. I give thanks for the opportunity to give and to receive love, for the opportunity to show up as the presence of love, as the vessel of love, as the blessing of love, as love. And so I claim and accept for each one of us here today that we are in the love that God is, that God is the love that we are. There's only oneness. We are one with that divine presence, that divine power, that divine intelligence that is God, that is love. And knowing this as our truth, I give thanks for knowing that as we consciously choose to show up in love as love, that we not only help to heal those parts of ourself that are calling for love, but also to heal the parts of our global humanity that are calling for love. That love heals all, one heart, one soul, one spirit at a time. And so from this place of love, I just say thank you. I am so grateful for this loving community, for the opportunity to love and support one another, for the opportunity to give of our time, talents, and treasures. And I'm so thankful for the leadership of the Sierra Center for Spiritual Living, for all those who show up to donate their time, talents, and treasures to bless one another, and in so doing, bless ourselves, for giving and receiving are one. And so I know for each one of us that the more love we feel within ourselves and believe that it is the truth of who we are, the more love we're able to give outward, out into the world. And that love is so powerful and so expansive that it multiplies and magnifies. And it goes out in great waves, waves of love throughout our community, throughout our country, throughout the world. So I give thanks for knowing that there is that power within each one of us to consciously choose to be the love that God is, to be the willing vessel, to show up in whatever way we can, to be the love that we are. And so I just say thank you for knowing this is our truth. And with great gratitude, I release this word into the law, knowing it is so, and so it is. And now it's time for our weekly affirmation, and I will say it first, and then we can say it together. I forgive and I am free. I forgive and I am free. Thank you. Thank you.
The road to freedom runs through the heart, runs through the heart, all the way through the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, to the heart of the country of the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, runs through the heart, all the way through the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, to the heart of the country of the heart. Starts in suffering, east of oppression, by the twin cities of denial and hard lesson. The first stop is the little town of It's a Blessing, on the road to freedom through the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, runs through the heart, all the way through the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, through the heart of the country of the heart. It runs by the cove of the slippery rocks, through the swampy bogged out in the town of Paradox, to letting go the village where spirit often walks, on the road to freedom through the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, runs through the heart, all the way through the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, to the heart of the country of the heart. Then the road runs along the river of life. It goes through joy and it goes through strife, down in the valley where the shadows be, up to the mountain where the spirits run free. In the heartland the road runs all the way clear to forgiveness. The destination is near to compassion, and now we are here on the road to freedom to the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, runs through the heart, all the way through the heart. The road to freedom runs through the heart, to the heart of the country of the heart. To the heart of the country of the heart. To the heart of the country of the heart. Thank you.
So I'm aware that there was some Sound issues, excuse me. I've listened on my phone and it's coming through clear now, so hopefully we got those resolved. The feedback is always great, and sometimes we can fix it during the service, and sometimes we can't. So, there we go. Let's take a breath together. Today we are talking about one of the most challenging topics to talk about. Forgive to live. And I want to say right off the bat that we're talking about forgive as a verb versus forgiveness as a noun, because very different. Forgiveness is the byproduct of forgive, because if we don't do forgiveness as a verb, if we don't forgive as a verb, we never get to forgiveness. I also want to acknowledge that this is painful for folks, and that some of you have already started an internal argument. And that's okay. Be right where you are. So I want to start with a quote from Krishnamurti. In his 1984 speech to the United Nations, he said this: "How can there be external peace in the world if one is not at peace with oneself? We will never answer that question. We are always trying to bring about change externally. We never seem to realize that unless each of us changes radically, there will be no peace on earth." Let's just take that in for a minute. I want to go over this morning, instead of having questions for you to take with you week, I'm going to give 8 steps to consider this activity of forgive to live. The first is we need to know what it means to give, what it's not, and why it matters. Right? To forgive literally has nothing to do with anybody else's behavior. The dictionary definition of forgive. To forgive is to make a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of anger, resentment, and or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. Now, nowhere in there does it say we forget what happened. Nowhere in there does it say you weren't really harmed, because in this physical realm, we harm one another. We do. Every one of us has caused harm, whether it be intentional or unintentional, to someone. Whether it's through something we said, whether it's through something we did, whether it's in a parking lot at a grocery store when we both backed up together and tried to occupy the same space at the same time with our cars. Okay. It's part of the human journey. It's when we hold on to the feelings, we get ourselves in trouble. To forgive not mean forgetting, nor does it mean condoning or excusing offenses. It also does not mean doesn't give you access to the person who is forgiving. Right? It doesn't mean we set ourselves up for the same event. I can forgive you and still you don't have access to me anymore. That's a challenging thing for a lot of people, especially victims of domestic violence. Okay. Forgiving the perpetrator doesn't mean you give them access to hurt you again. It means you let go of the anger and resentment that ties you to them, is what it actually means. Why does it matter? Because the act of practicing this thing called forgive increases our self-esteem. It increases our sense of inner strength and safety. We'll talk more about that in a minute. When we hold on to stuff, we continue to hurt ourselves. The other person doesn't even know, right? They don't know you're holding them in all this anger. They don't know. And it's the one who's being hurt. We are. So that's another reason why it's important to set ourselves free. It's not about the person, I promise you. Science, medical technology has shown that letting go of that anger and resentment decreases depression, decreases anxiety, it decreases unhealthy anger. Did you catch that? Unhealthy anger. Not all anger is unhealthy. Some of it is absolutely appropriate. We have to learn the difference. And we get relief from symptoms of PTSD when we let go of what anchors us to it. Spiritually, and I think this is one of the most challenging things for us in this human experience to grasp, is there's no such thing as forgiveness. There's no such thing. Because forgiveness requires that something be deemed wrong. And what created us with absolute free will under the condition of grace, which means it doesn't see anything wrong. It literally doesn't. Its whole thing is to create in multiplicity, to increase its experience of itself, and grace is that activity where free will really comes. It doesn't withdraw, it doesn't get angry. Because it's self, right? And the whole concept of forgiveness, this whole act of forgive, is really a human construct that lead us to a more authentic experience of our spirituality when we practice it. Because it takes us back to oneness. It takes us out of separation and back to the truth of who we are. It's not an easy journey at all. Step 2. Much like when we start working out our physical body to become stronger, we need to start working out our Forgive Fit program, right? Because we have to build a forgive muscle. We're not taught how to do this, folks. We're taught guilt, shame, and blame. We're taught reward, punishment, mostly punishment. And so we don't have a very strong forgive muscle. So how do we build a forgive muscle? Especially when we're dealing with folks that hurt us. Well, I suggest you start with people that haven't hurt you. Right? Start with some of the really benign things, like when you're in the grocery store and someone in line is irritable, forgive. Immediately. When you catch yourself having irritable thoughts about that person, interrupt it. Begin to build your forgive muscle. See them as magical. See, even respond kindly. You know, if someone snaps at you, those of us in relationships, we can snap back, or perhaps we can say nothing and just smile at our partner. Perhaps we could offer a hug. But to begin to build our forgive muscle by stop criticizing. Stop finding fault with people who are just having a people moment. Right? It begins to build the muscle. we have to, step 3, we have to address our inner pain. We have to. This is the land where spiritual bypass comes in, right? And we cannot afford spiritual bypass because it doesn't really deal with anything. To tell yourself when you're in a place of deep pain because you have legitimately been abused, to go to that place of, well, I know I just got the crap beat out of me by my spouse, and here I'm laying in the hospital with all kinds of injuries, but I'm whole, perfect, and complete. It's true, and it's a spiritual bias. I have to own that I'm aching, and that I feel broken. I'm angry because I've been physically assaulted and abused. We have to own the feelings. We have to be willing to dance with our shadow side. Do you know that shadows are nothing more than blocked light? That's all they are. A shadow is created by an object that blocks light. And so those places in us that are hurt, that we don't go to, we can't move them out of the way if we don't acknowledge them. We have to go to that place. We have to acknowledge our pain. And we have to love ourselves in our pain in order to get through our pain. The other thing we have to do is recognize that not everything that feels like somebody else wounded us is accurate. Right? Sometimes we take things personal and we wound ourselves with it and blame somebody else. Our woundedness is not always just. Sometimes it's a projection of how we already feel about ourselves. And here's the thing about this anger, resentment, woundedness. There's a triangle. Okay. Every point on the triangle is necessary for it to exist. For there to be a victim, there has to be a villain. Every time there is a victim and a villain, somebody's looking for a hero to solve it. There's the triangle. Right? How do we get off the triangle? We get off of it. Just get off of it. If you find yourself in the point where you're a victim, we address our inner pain. There is a huge difference between acknowledging that we are the victim of something and becoming a victim. One is a factual event that happens in the physical realm. Right? Somebody breaks into your house. You are a victim of a break-in. 10 years later, if you're still telling the story and you're still terrified and you're still angry at whoever broke into your house, you have taken on the identity and practice of being a victim. And you know who your villain is, even if you don't know who broke into your house. Whoever broke into your house is your villain. What you don't have is a savior. You don't have a hero. And if you keep looking one, chances good you're going to remain in the victim role because you put yourself there by consent. And that's a hard for us to swallow sometimes. Because I didn't break my own house, no, you didn't. And the part was real. But when you hold on to the anger and you hold on to the resentment, you chain yourself to that event and you chain yourself to that victimhood. That we do by consent. And it's only by consent that we get to undo that. So how do we do that? We have to train ourselves by telling ourselves the truth. Right? We go back to we're building our forgive muscle. We practice it. That's why we call this stuff spiritual practice. It's not spiritual arrival. It's not spiritual graduation. Right? Because we're all still here on planet Earth in this tumbler of humanity, bumping into one another, polishing one another, and stuff happens. Stuff happens. And so we start putting these things in practice, and we begin to develop empathy. Interestingly enough, we've got scientific studies that show that even people who imagine forgiving other people in completely hypothetical situations where nothing actually happened lights up the neurocircuits in the brain responsible for empathy. So faking the practice of forgive will help you empathy. I find that exciting and quite remarkable. Right? So you can just make up. Right? To begin to build that empathy. That, well, hypothetically, if this were to happen, I forgive you. Right? And even just saying that now, I felt some energy move in my body. I was like, whoa, that was trippy. Okay. So practice. Make up hypothetical scenarios and begin to activate and build that empathy part of the brain, so that when you need it, it's got some zap in there. It's not the first time you visited empathy, right? Because sometimes that's what we do. We wait until everything falls apart, and then we're like, uh-oh, now what? If we practice this stuff, if we live this stuff, and it's accessible when we actually need it. I think step 5 is often misunderstood, and we make it harder than it has to be. Step 5 is find meaning in your suffering. Now that is very different than everything happens for a reason. Okay? God was teaching me something. There's no God outside of you that has a textbook and a lesson plan for your life. That is not how it happens. Okay? It's not. We are that come here as and we are in our journey of remembering that. And I call it because it has no gender and it has all genders. It creates, and then it leaves its creation to evolve and remember who it is, what it is. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Pain is going to happen because we interact in relationships. It's just going to happen. When we hold on to it, we create our suffering. Now, there's lots of reasons why we might do that. If I feel completely empowered as a human being, if I feel completely invisible on planet Earth, if I feel like nobody notices me and my suffering creates enough drama and enough energy that it gets your attention, well, now my suffering has tremendous meaning because it validates my presence here on planet Earth in a sick, twisted kind of way, but it does. Here's the problem with that. It also validates the lie that you're inadequate. It validates the lie that you're unseen. It validates the lie that you don't matter, and you do. And so if we lean into what is suffering about, what is it really about? It may be as simple as I don't know how else to do it. It can be that. But if we can find meaning in it, and then the flip side is for those of us that have experienced abuse. Authentic, straight out, uncalled for, never going to be okay abuse. What I can tell you as one of those people is that it's one of the greatest gifts I have now because it allows me to sit with people, freeing myself from the suffering of it. Didn't take away the experience. It took away the chain to the abuser. And so now I can use it to sit with people in their suffering and demonstrate that there can be freedom if we choose it. It's not easy. I've never experienced it to be fun. But I promise you, on the other side of every ouch is an amazing hallelujah. There, if we will do the work to step into it. It doesn't mean what happened is okay. It just means if we're gonna have a relationship with those events, why not have a empowered relationship that helps other people heal, that helps us all come back to an awareness of our wholeness instead of living in resentment and anger that kills us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually every day. We get to choose. We get to choose. Step 6. When it's hard, when it's too hard to navigate on your own, lean into somebody else's strength. That's why we do community. There are times when it is just too raw to do on your own. That's why we have practitioners. That's why we have ministers. That's why we have each other. That's why we have Walk with the Rev. Because you can come walk for an hour and just be. And if you want to talk, you can talk. And if you don't want to talk, you don't got to talk. But it's a place of refuge. Right? You can reach out to practitioners that will help you remember the truth of you, that will help you sort all this stuff out and guide you back to you. Step 7, you got to forgive self. Because the thing that binds us to the trauma, the thing binds us to events happened years ago, is our agreement with them. Those places where we think we have to be angry in order to be empowered, underneath that is the whole me has no power. Right? And it's easy to get it there because most of those actions of abuse took away our no. When people exert power over us, it's easy to fall into a belief that I have no power without realizing that we're agreeing with the abuser. So we have to begin to forgive ourselves for not knowing how to do it differently. That's all it is. Nobody teaches the stuff growing up. I live for the day when our kids get this kind of stuff in school. Right? Math is great, but how do I live on planet Earth? Teach me that. Right? Step 8. Develop a spiritual practice of replacing anger and resentment with love. Now, that does not mean you sit around going, I love my abuser, I love my abuser, I love my abuser. It's not what I am. Anger and hate are responses to something we love. They are offensive, protective response to what we love. And so instead of stopping at the anger, the hate, what do you love? What are you protecting? What is so precious to you that you love it? For parents of children that have been abused, they love their children. So shift the focus to, I love my children. My children are valuable to me. I get to stand up with my children. I get to protect my children. Way more productive than spending your time being mad and resentful at your child's abuser. Because what happens in that scenario is your child's left out in the cold. And that's not really what you want to be doing, but that's what happens. Ultimately, we are a choice. And I want to wrap up with this. Many of you may be familiar with this story. It's a little story about the difference between heaven and hell from Ram Dass's book, How Can I Help? A burly, rough samurai approached a monk. The monk was incredibly small and frail. And the samurai used to, his presentation in the is he's used to being heard. And so right out of these, like, hey monk, teach me something about heaven and hell. The monk took a breath, put his head down. Then he looked up at the samurai, and with equal energy, teach you something about heaven or hell? I can't teach you anything. You're dirty, you smell bad, your sword's rusty, you are an absolute disgrace to the lineage of samurai. Get out of my sight, I can't stand you. The samurai was enraged. Absolutely enraged. Speechless enraged. You know that place where you just are so angry you can't even talk? And he lifted his sword, trembling, face red, to execute the monk. And the monk whispered, "That is hell." And it stopped the samurai in his tracks. And he was shocked at what he heard. And he slowly put his sword down as he recognized that this frail monk risked his life to teach him something about heaven and hell. And as he put down his sword, his energy, she shifted gratitude, peace. And monk whispered, and that is heaven. Let's take this into prayer. So great to recognize that in the active life, it is all one thing unfolding itself. One energy, one love, one power, one presence, one substance, creating out of itself, by itself, to be itself, free of guilt, shame, and blame, free of any need to forgive, because it simply loves itself, its creation. I know being made out of it, by it, to be it, that I am it, individualized into this physical form. And I know that what is true of me is true of all life, each a divine, individualized expression of perfection, never separate from it. And so I speak my word, claiming, affirming that this activity to the forgive becomes the nature, becomes the activity that returns us to our divine nature. Each individualized expression on their own path, on their own time schedule, in their own unfolding. No way, no wrong way. Just a way. And that in this path is freedom. As we release everything unlike divine truth of creation, are set free to live fully, to live freely, to live in celebration. And so I celebrate. I celebrate the perfection of life unfolding itself as each individualized expression. I celebrate grace. I celebrate love. So in this celebration, I release my word knowing it's already done, that each path is ebbing along just perfectly. So I let it go. I let it be. And so it is. Let's take another breath while we shift into our time of giving. If you're joining us online, I invite you to give through our website there on the screen. If you're here in the room, we'll have a basket moving around here in just a minute. Let's say our giving affirmation together. I give this gift with love and joy from a consciousness of abundance. Divine love blesses and prospers all I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
Gratitude is flowing, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful. 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 I'm so grateful.
And so I speak a word of blessing for the gift, the energy, the manifestation of the divine as money, as we give through Sierra Center for Spiritual Living to do great work in the world. And so is. Okay. So, couple of reminders. Couple of new things. I didn't have to make announcements for. Our beloved Julia Robles Scott, a week from tomorrow, will be sitting for her ministerial licensing pass. I have every confidence that by 5 o'clock on February 28th, Julia Robles Scott will be a licensed minister of Centers for Spiritual Living. And then in May, finally, she's going to get to graduate from Holmes Institute. We've got 3 graduating classes coming together for graduation. It will be May, I believe it's May 21st, which is a Saturday, in Napa. And then on Sunday, after her graduation, she will be here delivering the Sunday message, and we will have a potluck party to celebrate her after that. So we're going to have some activities here, by golly. We have our first out-of-town guest musician coming. The 4th Sunday in March, Love Eternal will be joining us here in person from Sacramento. They're amazing. And this afternoon, under the topic of weird things you get to do as a minister, at Robinson Plaza at 2 o'clock, there is a political theater happening where I will be conducting a wedding between Gold, representing the mine, and Miss Nevada County. and I hear you, it may not be what you think. I strongly suspect the ceremony in the union to be interrupted by dissenters. So if you have nothing to do and you want to come play, come on down to the Robinson Plaza at 3 o'clock and see what we're up to. It's the first non-wedding I'm officiating. It will be fun. Want to give some thank yous. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Juanita. Juanita and I did really well. She got to sing. We didn't collide going back and forth. That was our biggest thing, is we just don't run into each other going back and forth. Thank you, Judy, for being our greeter. Thank you, Jill, for lighting our candles and bringing our orchid. Thank you, Hillary, for learning the technology over there as we go. We've got some folks in training, and it takes a little bit to learn. And so thank you for being here, for being present. It is so much more fun having you in the room than not. Did I miss anything? Benediction. All right. So let's stand, do our benediction. Some blood flowing. Something wonderful happening as me now. It is this thing called life. It is this thing called forgive. It is this thing called freedom. I know it. I feel it. I sense it. Because I am it. And so it is. All yours, musicians.